playing into that. It's like
Just dodge it, forehead.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a really rough one. It is a similar tale to what we saw earlier today, right? From Gen G, where they are basically at the mercy of T1.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a great space to be.
However, if you rush 20 this comp,
that's splendid.
They will just roll over you. Like, DRX, they're playing the long game. They're like, we are scaling, and you best believe I'm going to be talking about it like 5,000 gold. Is that going to be enough? Can they get past that deficit? Are they actually behind Chronicler? Can you tell me? And the answer is probably going to be no. As we are really struggling to actually get the game going, ladies and gentlemen, as we are going to be straight into a pause. Not entirely sure what is happening, as it's some client issue. Gumiushi just struggling here, as we're going to have to remake everything all over again.
Third time was not the charm, as it turns out.
No, in fact, I hope we just run through all the picks again. Get it up on the screen. Let's go. Don't you think that Renekton, Nidalee, Jace, Jinx, Braum would be just great picks for T1 Chronicler? What do you think about that? What do you think they're going to be playing into? Ideally,
we can't keep doing this.
We have to. We've got nothing else to do.
Keep going back to this well. I love me some free hit passes, but four hit is too much. You know?
I mean, that should be my line, because I'm the guy that hates Jin. Oh, no. Wow, they are giggling a lot over on the Korean broadcast. You guys can't hear it from here, but we've got our headsets on, and I can hear Dongchen just losing his mind. It's him, Kasujin, and Gorilla today, I believe, on the desk, and obviously just having a bit of a cackle at the current situation that we're in. And I think a bit of delirium would make some sense, considering the fact that we are now in this position for the 4th time. Working PCs, pretty good though, so you can understand why we're doing it.
It is an LCK staple. A tale as old as time.
Indeed. What's your favorite Disney movie?
Oh, that's a very hard question. Recently, it's been Moana.
Oh yeah, I like that one.
Moana, exquisite movie. Love everything about it, like the songs, the voice acting, the charm of the world.
The
really
Rock.
Nice. Yeah, the Rock. Always the Rock.
Yeah.
Oh, always the Rock.
Big fan.
But also the guy from Flight the Conchords.
Yeah.
Right? He's amazing. It's the big crab.
Yep. He was actually my favorite. Jermaine.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah, great song as well, kind of David Bowie-esque, which I'm particularly fond of. So it's just a lot going on.
It's very, very good. I wasn't expecting you to pick one of the new ones.
Well, that's the thing, most recently, right? But then, can you ever contest with, say, The Lion King? And I don't think you can. So they might have kind of different places in my heart.
So
how's that for you?
Speaking of in my heart, I have actually a similar thing, right? Because I am a huge fan of Elton John, but I'm an even bigger fan of Phil Collins. So Tarzan is actually kind of my favorite, almost purely because of Phil Collins.
That soundtrack is
it's just so
good.
It is absolutely fantastic.
That's ludicrous.
And Rosie O'Donnell's actually fantastic in that movie as well, as Tarzan's friend.
And now it's hard, right? Because Pixar is also Disney. So like that creates a whole new, kind of
a whole new world.
Yeah.
How do we not mention Aladdin? Extraordinarily rude of us.
That's the problem. You can just keep going down the list, and there's so many.
No, exactly.
It's really hard. Because then if you also have to include Pixar, then you get like Toy Story.
Do you know I only recently saw Toy Story 3?
It's one of my favorite. I mean, that's like you can say it about anyone really, when it comes to Toy Story.
I watched it with my girlfriend, and she filmed me while I cried at the end.
Yeah, naturally.
I was very upset.
That was a very emotional ending. It didn't wreck me as much as Coco, but it was close.
Yeah. No,
Coco's worse. What a beautiful movie that is.
Do you know which movie slayed me the most? It was actually Pursuit of Happiness. That one, I was just wrecked by the end of that. It was that was an ordeal. Watching that like by yourself is that's a tough task.
I'm wrecking my brain. Okay,
here we go. Okay, lull state pause. LCK mode turned off, video game mode switched back on again. Thank you so much for bearing with us. Make sure you let us know in Twitch chat what your favorite Disney movie is. That's very important. But we're going to get towards the actual League of Legends as T1 look to take on DRX. A lot of early game power on T1's side. DRX hoping nothing happens for the first 30 minutes of the game, and then they can get into it. But I think that we're going to expect a lot of early shenanigans from T1, and that's been exactly what they've been great at throughout, especially round 2 of this season.
And it's not impossible for DRX to find plays, because they do still have decent setup. Between the Thresh and the Rise, Pioshik can actually play through some of his lanes if they overextend, if they get greedy for a play, because while there is considerable amount of early game power, just with the lockdown and like maybe Pioshik picking up an early kill, right, and getting a reset, picking up another one, and then your skirmishes become much more lopsided. You can find a nice death sentence and go from there, but that is already reliant on T1 either not respecting or walking into fog or not having prio, and all those things seem relatively unlikely, and that's why like I'm loving these wards, because the one factor that you don't control and the one factor that can actually mess up the early game power that you should have is if Pioshik goes for a unorthodox early pathing and suddenly shows up in the lane.
Yeah.
And the moment he gets spotted on that wall, they're going to know what he is going to be up to. And it is just going to be a really tough fight here for DRX.
Well, you can see Pioshik already heading towards his Krugs as that second camp. So might be paying a visit topside. And as we can see, Kingen already taking a little bit of damage here. Faker's also going to have a rough time here in this lane, as you can see. Jet on the rise, very capable of not only clearing out minions, but also harassing the Renekton at the same time. But Faker could certainly still set up very beautifully for Owner here in the mid lane. So it's going to be a difficult dance for Jet. We'll see how he does navigate it.
And now we have the verification. They know...
Oh dear.
That's, yeah, and now the reason why Connor can play this way is because of that ward that Faker placed earlier. They see Pioshik on his Raptors. He's pathing towards bot side, so Karya and Gumayushi are completely fine getting pushed in a little. This lane, you are not playing for lane dominance at all. All you need to do is either absorb pressure, and maybe if there's a misstep, you know, you can collab. Yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah, King is just going to wait for that wave very patiently underneath his turret as Owner going to take his blue buff.
Oh god.
And head towards the top lane.
That's a big wave that's getting stacked up. That King is already getting aggressively traded with. That's really big.
Is going to miss. Yep, that is actually a fair bit of damage missed out on. This ward over the wall is going to spot Owner out as the spear will connect. Actually stops the building of that ruby crystal. Or the cloth armor potentially, as another spear is going to connect. That's 2 for 2. Owner just going to go in there, gets himself the execute. Canna picks up the aggro first, so they tank this one very, very beautifully, and that's first blood at 3.5 minutes.
Really nicely done there by Kana to make sure he was in a safe position, picks up the aggro so that there is no chance of Owner either dying or having to force his flash. And it is exactly that type of play. And oh my god, that's a disgusting first back. Goes back, picks up boots.
Oh my
and a
god.
Dirk.
Okay. Well, Canna's fine. And we were talking about the fact that, you know, sometimes we actually do see this. The Ornn picked into the Jace as an answer. But the problem is, in the early game, it is still awful into the Jace. It's just that as the game goes on, theoretically, you should be able to get towards being okay. But when you have no point of being okay around the map, this happens, and there's almost no option as... He's just bottom for apples underneath that one.
형, 내 창 어땡? 지리지?
How was my spear?
It was very good. It was a very nice spear. And that's also why whenever we see... recently it's been better, but like generally whenever we see Renekton Italy comps in the LCK, we were always a bit apprehensive because they didn't do this exact thing. They didn't actually commit. And in this case, it's obviously the Renekton is mid and it's Jace on top, but it's still cashing in on the early game power that a Nidalee has when she has priority lanes that can set up for dives like this. And then if you are able to get your Jace into an early lead, that's good in of itself. If you get Kana an early lead and you keep a good track of Pioshik, That's horrifying for any team to play into, because that is exactly where teams have often hit T1, and where T1 has looked the weakest is when Kana does get camped, when he doesn't get a lead. But now, playing from here...
God, okay, Kana looking for it. That is a great flash to cancel out the To the Skies, but it's still flash used in the 1v1. So when I say great, I mean it kept him alive, but it's still awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot to say about that one.
There really isn't. And it ties into the larger theme, right? The one upside is that while that is happening, DRX is now going to start with the Drake, and there is prio in both mid and bot, so they should be able to get this with a relative impunity. And that in of itself means that DRX's early game not getting completely wasted, but T1 have shown us that they're more than happy to give up objectives, kind of similar to what Dominic was doing early today. It's like, we don't care about Drakes, we want gold. Like,
yeah,
we're going to get more gold than you, and then we get items, and then we take you down. And they do that fairly consistently. I say,
we're gonna watch this replay. Oh, in this replay, he missed the first spear. Let's see how the second one goes. Yeah, we're just going to pick up a plate. Spear connects there onto Kingen, who only has a couple of creeps left to take down, so that's going to keep him alive.
Yeah, for them. Like, even with the spear hitting, Kana had very little mana available. Kingen had barrier and his ultimate. So, nicely done. You know, just absorb the pressure. Attempt at cross-map play doesn't actually work out. Kana, or Kingen's rather lane state is still horrible.
It's awful.
Yeah. That part doesn't read. Oh, God.
Okay, we are just going to have the Gromp take into red buff and Krugs, most likely here for Ona, who does want to get back to doing a little bit of farming, but I don't think you necessarily need the Nidalee for things to be awful. As Pyoshik, he's going to come on forward, flash out from Kana, still gets knocked up though, but gets close enough to his turret to be okay. Ona was on his Gromp, so he's able to get into position to potentially help out if a dive was incoming.
It's a nice trade. You'll take that. You use your ultimate, but you get a flash from Kana. Any potential follow-up play is going to have a chance to be a lot more fruitful. And maybe if you can get Jet to find some priority in his lane, well, to top side, it becomes a lot easier to get any play going on the Jace. And you kind of need to. The lead is currently so big that Kana is going to be able to maintain complete control of the lane and maintain or zone Kingen out of so much CS. So I'm happy to see Pyoshik pathing top, even though obviously once the clear jungle might still opt into that, but there's also a possibility he goes for Raptors and pass topside again in an attempt to get something going, because I think if you just leave Kingen alone, he's going to bleed so much more, and you can't even really blame him. Like, you opted into this.
Yeah.
When you pick the Ornn, there's not that much to be done about it, unfortunately.
No, it's a really rough time. We've got a Vamp Scepter and a Longsword alongside the tier here for Kana as he goes back towards this lane. Might be able to mitigate some of the Bramble Vest action here as the rotation over towards the Rift Herald has happened. Some vision here available for DRX as Jun and Taeyun are going to get up here as well. But T1 with all of their control of the top lane. This should be very, very difficult for DRX to contest, as now Faker moving on in. Is the Bellows Breath going to be there? It is. Can they actually lock down the Ornn, though, is the question, as Faker looking to get out. Heartbreaker comes on through, as that's a huge Realm Warp to get DRX up here, and the Jace is going to get taken down. Brilliant hook comes through as a Super Mega Death Rocket picked up. Shout out to Jonas Strong there for just getting the swift pan over to watch that one happen. So a bit of an answer there from T1 in form of the Jinx, but the Realm Warp worked out beautifully.
Yeah, really nicely done. Great read from DRX, and it was, of course, it was a fairly obvious play, right? Like T1, trying going on the King, who doesn't have flash available, doesn't have his ultimate, but using the power of that Realm Warp so expertly, and I think the moment that King like gets underneath his turret, your stun doesn't work out, the Bellows Breath gets him out, you just kind of let it go. They don't want to go for that and get punished appropriately. That kill from Guma is actually really big, because if that doesn't come through, Kingen can like just back, immediately teleport in, and I don't think this ever works out as
Speaking of things working out, Hook is going to go wide here from Jun as in goes Faker. They're on a ward, so DRX knows that this is happening. Ona's going to be able to pick up the Eye of the Herald though, and T1 are like, no, we're not going to fight for this. We've managed to get exactly what we wanted, and we will now back away. Teleport from Ornn gets him down towards that bottom side of the map to try and catch back up in whichever way he can. You can see Kana back to work on that top side. still at a 20 CS advantage. Taeyeon in this mid lane, as we've got a lot of things sort of mixing around here, but Owner, it looks like, is just wanting to drop down Shelly. Jet might be in trouble. Does have flash, almost has teleport up as well. And
is Rise.
should be able to clear out this wave very quickly. So it's going to be fine.
Goodbye. Yeah, that's Rise wave clear once he's had a back or two. So really nicely done. No possibility for a big Herald play either. And this response is actually really nicely all in all, I'd personally say, from DRX. Because King staying alive here, like when this dive does come through, you just get blown up, right? There's no way for the rest of your team to join. There is not really a collapse possibility as well. Really big is that while this was happening, at the very early part, this is really, really important. Because if this kill doesn't happen, DRX might just immediately go and rotate towards that Rift Herald, and there's nothing that T1 can do. So Gumayushi picking up that kill, one, is huge. Secondly, when T1 left, their bot wave was pushing into their own turret. And then that teleport from King and actually meant that, like, that didn't lead to, because that would have been so many resources getting wasted. You saw how big that wave was that was being stacked up as it bounced away from the turret. So all in all, in terms of like raw gold, DRX actually do kind of nicely, right? They find the 2 kills. Yeah, they give up Kingen, but he then is able to catch up a little bit more in his matchup thanks to that nice TP. And at the end, it's a small lead for T1. They will be able to make it bigger once they do find this Herald, but Kingen is a bit tankier now.
That's a great knock-up, though, as Canna doesn't have flash, and he just gets taken down. Bopped before the Ram even makes his way in, as now Owner, he might actually just throw down the Herald and try and take down this turret. He should be able to do so. It's giving a lot of gold over towards him as the Flame Choppers go down. Good flash there from Jet. Gets him out of the way as the turret continues to get tanked by Carrier, and he's very close to dies to that one. And yep, that is Owner grabbing all of that gold. Is now Faker close to getting dove here by Jun and Taeyeon. There's the box. The hook is going to connect as well, as Faker will just be taken out by the duo, as Owner's just taking things into his own hands here towards the top side, as Shelly will get yet another charge. This game is slowly but surely devolving a little bit here.
Remember, when you said, Atlas, in Champ Select, we need to see it a clean 2-0. Anything less is not enough. Well, if we hold T1 to that standard, this is not the game that you want to play. A lot of objectives being given up, and this is the right idea from Kana, but you can't do that at all. Going for that poke is nice, but then pathing towards the turret is not something you can ever get away with. Can also just sit in range and give a little bit more time, and Faker also not respecting the fact that, yeah, he's a Renekton, he's pretty strong, but you're still fighting 1v2 into an Aphelios Thresh. That's not something that's ever going to work out for you. And with that gold on the first turret being picked up, it's not a complete disaster, but the reverse turret gets found in the bot side by DRX. You don't actually get the top side turret, and as T1, I still think that their composition is going to allow them to have so much power around the next 10 to 15 minutes, and even after the U of a Jinx, right? So you have like late game insurance. If everything else fails, just try to allow Guma to play the game as much as you possibly can, because he still has incredible range into a composition that, especially when you cancel the Ornn ult, might have a hard time getting reliably on top of him with a Braum there as well. But it's not the look you want with a composition like this, and it's also an argument as to why these comps are kind of risky.
Yeah.
Because you do need to make plays, and then you see sometimes knowing that you need to make plays make players do subpar things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's the Ornn. Canna not going to get hit by it this time around, but we are running out of minions, and Kingen utilizing that ultimate to clear the minion wave. Very, very smart. Avoids yet another dive, and it's going to get harder and harder to do this to the Ornn as the game goes on, right? And T1 still wanting to make sure that they keep Kingen behind, but he's catching up quite nicely, actually. Closed that gap by about 10 CS. Is Pyosik going to come through and steal away this red buff? Sorry, blue buff. Canna down here on the bottom side. The reason why they had to give that one up is because the Jace will be able to grab a free turret, but the same thing should be answered for. The spear not going to connect. Owner thinking about trying to fight against Kingen here is T1 trying to get something based on the fact that there is an extra investment there on the top side of the map, but DRX with a lot of answers here to what T1 are doing.
The key thing here is that DRX's comp is exceptional at turtling. Between the rise that allows you to randomly rotate to objectives, say if a Baron take comes through by T1 and they're a little bit greedy in how they set it up, you can be there momentarily. The hard engage is great. Yes, they need to respect the Ornn, or rather the Brom, who's able to stop the ultimate from King, but if you can play around that, you still have reliable long-range engage with the pick potential from a Death Sentence or a possible play from Jet. And as T1, your siege is incredible because you have so much reliable poke, but then you do actually need to set up well-round objectives, because if you don't know where everyone on DRX is, if you can't utilize your range and you just get jumped on, it's very easy for you to just straight up lose fights. Even with the minute gold lead that you have right now, and I don't think you can give up another Drake.
Pyosik going to get jumped on. Heartbreak is his way out. The flash is going to be there as that spear is dodged. The Lantern going to be taken here by Jun. I don't know whether Pyosik did want to get that far out, but now he has the opportunity of heading back if he wants to. Shirley could be the option here for T1 to continue their onslaught onto the structures. Could certainly help them out, especially with breaking this mid-outer turret, as Jun's going to make his way through, gets that ward down. Immediately it is stopped as Shock Blast lands onto the Thresh, and it looks like DRX want to fight for this one. Teleport to come through. The hook is going to land immediately onto Faker as the Flay comes back. Jun gonna have to go golden there as it's a decent knock-up, but Carrier has the door as the spear is gonna connect onto Jet, and the poke is coming through as well. The dive onto Taehoon is fantastic as Super Mega Death Rocket not gonna land, but that's only because he's dead. Now Jet's in trouble. Oh, the flash to get out of the way of the spear. Carrier goes golden at just the right moment, and the rest of T1 are going to move forward. The health bars are so low. Imagine if the Super Mega Death Rocket was still there as Canna. He really wants to find these lower health members, but this should be 2 turrets, if not more, from T1, especially if they can stop some of these backs. Oh, that rocket almost extraordinarily scary, as if this was, you know, a crit and maybe a bit more items. That Jinx could have just got a lot of value there, but not going to happen as they grab 2 turrets for this one.
That's a nightmare scenario late game, because then it's like the Gume Yushi gets splash and everyone just dies. But this early in the game,
that was smooth.
Nice, very nicely done.
Poke her in the eye on her way past.
And what we see there is a key thing, which is that already at this point in the game, the DRX comp can actually teamfight really well. And T1 have played these type of compositions so many times, so you see they actually know how to keep this from devolving into a straight up 5v5, even though there's 5 members on both sides, because they weave back and forth. Try to hit as many of your spears and or shock blast before you actually commit. Because once Faker goes in, there's no getting out, right? He's going to have to use his slice and dice to just get on top of the enemy backline. At the end of it, though, T1, they pick up 2 plates, they pick up the Dragon, and this is still a game that, even though I think the gold lead is not as big as you'd like it to be, they are very much in control of, because we talk about T1, they can't afford that many missteps. The same can be said for DRX, because, like, walk into 1 spear in the mid game, and, like, your objective is gone. Right, like if Pyosik gets hit by a spear or a shock blast, that can be a Baron. As easy as, especially when all these turrets start going down.
Yeah, this is another inner turret going to be taken as Canna tanks it up, actually. Carrier getting taken down to about half as there's another Lantern thrown down, but now that's on cooldown. As DRX should be able to defend here, but that is 5 turrets already taken by T1, and this is just lining the pockets of this team that just wants to continue getting that map control. DRX might actually be able to take this here. Faker, not a lot he can do. Does have Dominus, but needs to be able to clear out the wave. And with the cannon here, it can be a little bit difficult, but with that extra... Oh, God. Chipper.
The zooming as well. Yeah. They really...
Jonas Strong is very, very good at
so
calling players out on their missing of cannon creeps. As Guma comes through, he's not going to miss these.
Let that be a lesson. That even the greatest League of Legends player of all time misses cannons.
Yeah. That's true. It happens beautiful. To the best of us. Absolutely does. Let's have a look at this one more time, though. The poke connecting beautifully here for T1.
And then we see really nice cancel there on the second activation. And everyone on T1 is like they're moving back and forth. And then once the kill actually does come through, they can move forward with a little bit less fear in their hearts. However, I think that is actually really nicely played here from DRX as well, right? Eventually their health bars get too low. They are still working with a relative deficit. So it's not going to be enough to actually get anything going. But you do see the remnants, the signs of what this composition can turn into if they're playing against a team that doesn't push their early game leads as much. Because while it has not been the cleanest game from T1, they are still very clearly playing according to their game plan, right?
Yep.
Like, look at the actual gold leads. Renekton might not be the furthest ahead, but in this comp, at the beginning of the game, he's going to be set up for either Jace or Nidalee, and in the late game, he is just going to stand next to Gumayushi and press W on anyone that comes close, and that's the job.
That is doing your job. Absolutely.
That's enough. Or, you know, get into the back line and, again, set up for either Kana or Owner to do the actual damage. So, not the end of the world, especially once it's 2 items. He's going to be relatively beefy. Expect him to opt into more tanky items after that, if we do get that far, because now gold lead slowly starting to get bigger. More mountain stacking from T1 would give their comp some added beefiness, and Gumayushi is currently sitting on 2-0. And Fed Jinxes have a way of running away with games without too much of a hitch.
And also works very, very well with poke compositions, right? Because you're not only sustained DPS, but you're also poke. Super Mega Death Rocket, after a Shock Blast lands or a big Spear lands, could just be a dead member of DRX. And then their game plan falls apart because they want the 5v5. They want to get all of their pieces working together in conjunction with one another. And it's going to be off the back of things like Realm Warp plays and stuff like that, because they do get outranged pretty severely by T1, like you've already stated. And I love that you talk about the fact that T1 do rely on so much setup, because it illustrates why they played the early stages of this game out the way they did. They gave up 2 Drakes in order to take as many turrets as possible, and then they focus on getting Heralds, even if it was Shirley, right? They invest into getting that so that they can break down this mid turret, and the more pressure that they have on DRX means the more access to the river they have to guarantee that they do get that setup.
There's a couple of steps to becoming better, right? And what T1, like, they're going up the ladder. First is like having your comp but not knowing how to play it. And no, but like legitimate, like that we've seen it happen a lot. Not specifically with T1, but more teams in general. And then secondly comes playing out your comp but still having some minor mistakes. In this case, Kana getting a little bit greedy for the execution. Ooh. They find the hook.
Yeah, good hook is going to land on a carrier, but
it's Brock. Okay.
He's not going to get played over the wall, and he has a door.
He's fine. And then I would rather see players make mistake trying to advance the game plan that they have opted into with their composition. Then I would see them not go for any plays, and then nothing happens, and then they lose the game by default. Which again, it shouldn't happen. But this is the LCK, and we have seen that countless times. And of course, it's not as good as executing your game plan flawlessly. But you know, got to break some eggs to make an omelet.
It's true. And speaking of that omelet, T1,
it's
now with 10 seconds left on this Drake, another hook is going to connect, this time onto Owner, and he immediately just gets exploded. Kingen taking a lot of damage, not going to be able to find the Ram the next time around, though, as the Viego immediately pops. Super Mega Death Rocket goes wide, but I just don't think it matters, as Guma's got so much damage, and DRX are just bullied out of this river. Flash from Taehoon, going to get him to safety, but not going to get him into position to take on T1 around this objective. Okay, Jun gonna get tagged. Hook is going to land on the carrier, but Jun might be in trouble here as Flame Choppers go down, looking to try and deny. There's the Thresh, as Jet immediately has to go golden. Is he going to be defended by the rest of his team, though, is the question, and the answer is absolutely not. Double kill for Gumayushi. Taehoon taking some damage, but the zap goes wide. Oh no, Guma got excited, ladies and gentlemen, and it's very, very scary. Taehoon, no mana, has to go home. Kingen, he's also just chilling here in this lane as T1 heading towards the Baron.
I thought they were going to go Drake. This is definitely the more high-risk version of the 2 available options that you have. You can just pick up a second mountain, or you can do this.
Yeah, why not just go over here and do this? I guess maybe because Pyosik has
the health bars are low.
Flash, ult, and Smite, of course.
Yes.
As he's going to get into the mist. Okay, can T1 actually manage to find a turn? As, oh my goodness, that damage onto Pyosik. All right, he's not coming into this pit anymore. As T1, they are still going to back away, so still good news for DRX, because T1 could have just taken the Drake.
Oh, T1. That was a greedy call, and they get punished appropriately. And now, DRX are on... Yeah, Guma played that fight mechanically really well. I agree. Thank you for the highlight observers. No, legit, because one of my...
All right, here we go. This is how it was all worth it. Never mind.
Often, and I think valid criticism of Gumayushi has been that while his laning phase has been great, he has that issue actually converting that into leads in team fights. And I think, especially when we go back to spring, to the start of summer, it felt like, yes, his laning phase was a little bit better than Teddy's, but then he didn't actually get that much done outside of it. And then to see plays like this, I think is a great, or a much better look.
If you don't succeed,
just do it again.
Just do it again. This is a free Baron, ladies and gentlemen. So,
yep.
You know, if anyone's KEKWing in the chat, that's not how it was. What you do is you distract them with a dragon and take a Baron. That's exactly what happened here. As we have a look, this is a great turn onto Owner at the beginning. Then it all kind of fell apart, and it was a good stun to make sure that Kingen couldn't get that ram to head back.
Who needs a frontline when you have carry out Braum? Legitimately, the amount of damage that Gumayushi and Kana were able to fight just because carry out standing there with his door up is revolting, right? Like, it's actually insane. Then carry going forward, hitting that Winter Spite is so big. Because if that doesn't happen, I don't know if he actually gets the passive on early on, and then that hook might lean into something more. Maybe Taeyun picks up a kill, maybe Carrier dies, and then these subsequent skirmishes all can't happen. As Gumi, he did get excited, walked forward there, did still have to respect the possibility of a knock-up because if King hits him there, Taeyun just murders him.
Well, here's a Realm Warp. Kana is in a lot of trouble as the Ram is going to come through. He does have Flash, but he's still going to get knocked up. Oh man, I'd say robbed on that one. Kana is real dead. Kyoshi going to take a fair bit of damage here as that spear almost just straight up kills him. As now T1 are just going to say, all right, well, if you guys are all just going to hang out in the top lane, we're going to take your mid inhibitor. And I guess maybe they're just going to be able to do that. Well, at least the inhibitor turret, anyway. So I guess maybe you could take that. Only 30 seconds remaining on to Kana, so shouldn't be too much of an issue here. Although they are going to miss out on one of their split push options for the 1-3-1 extra Baron value.
It is a good pickup there on Kana, I think, from DRX. Still showing some of the signs of life that really were what kept them what got them into such a good position in the spring split, right? It was these type of moments. Then it was 40 minutes in the game. This is a little bit earlier, but exactly the type you're looking for, yeah.
Yeah, just not quite flashy enough.
Just at the very edge of that. Ram is a very wide skill shot. Still though, it is another time that T1 not really respecting the potential that Realm Mob has, and DRX using it really nicely. So that in of itself, quite nicely done. And T1's Baron buff, a little bit mitigated. It's Faker.
Yeah, another Ram is going to come through. Dominus to try and answer here, but Faker is just going to get taken down extraordinarily quickly. Yeah, not a whole lot you can do there. The Steric's not enough. As Guma's up towards the top side.
Yeah,
T1 still trying to get turrets here. As with their Baron, let's see whether they can do this. DRX actually deciding not to go for the race. Actually, in fact, neither team deciding to go for that one. 12 seconds on this Baron buff does mean that the empowered recalls are going to be there. And this is still a little bit messy, Chronicler.
It is. And it is a relative lack of vision, and it's because this has been such a messy game. It has been just pick, left, right, pick up an objective, run to one end of the map, push a turret, run to the other side of the map, try and push a turret, then have to back because everyone is coming and they killed someone, but they also can't push because you're pushing.
Yep.
And it's just a very frantic pace here, and it leads to a situation in which both teams are kind of like continuously scrambling. The DRX are the ones who are just, we are a team. We band together, we're 5 people, we're gonna run around. Maybe we put Jet in the side lane if he has teleport a little bit, but we also need to hitchhike right with him anytime we want to make an actual play.
Yeah.
Because we need that Realm Warp.
I mean, Jet just sets up the Thunderdome and then they know that they're doing battle. That's how it works.
Yes.
Every time
No
that
way
Realm
out.
Warp comes out, it's like, oh, it's fighting time. And they're in there. So it's a great way of communicating with your team. Circle comes out, we do battle. As DRX now in this mid lane going to do a bit of ping pong.
And
as Goomer is huge.
Yeah, because of that greed earlier on, there is now a sole opportunity.
Light Vigil is going to connect onto Goomer there, but he does create a lot of distance between himself. Carrier going to try and get himself in front of Jet as well, who goes golden immediately. The Rune Prison doesn't do enough as the Jace falls down and DRX decide that they just want to disengage. 4v5 is dangerous here for T1, as you're exactly right. This is Mountain Soul Point, and Guma still stepping forward. Spear connects onto Jun, and this is the last remaining poke form that they have outside of Super Mega Death Rocket, I guess, in Ona. And then Italy really does have to get this one done as DRX are just going to back away. The health bar is too low. They are going to forfeit the Drake.
They get away with it, but man, that's a nil bar. And it goes back to T1 getting greedy for the Baron early on, which we keep going back to it because it's such a pivotal moment, because in this time they get away with it. And it's fine. Yeah, Kana dies. But you're able to still get the Drake, you're able to deny the soul point, because your Pokemon becomes so much less strong the moment that soul actually comes down, right? For DRX, and DRX's teamfight is still impeccable. As, man, June's hooks have been good.
Yeah.
Like, every single play, it feels like where DRX are able to like win something is just June hooking someone. First it was Ona, this time it was Akana, and it is still, weirdly enough, like I feel like T1 is still in a lot of control. But if DRX can keeping this going, I think they have a really big mental edge, because this is a team with no pressure, no expectations, and if they lose 2-0,
they also have on Rise of Felios,
well,
so
yeah.
it's not even,
well, I mean, I
think take mentality out of the equation. This game's so hard to win if it gets to 40 minutes and you've got ornaments everywhere and these hyper-scaling champions.
I don't disagree.
Man. Yeah. But you're right. I think the mental edge does certainly play a part. DRX not with too much to worry about, right? It's nothing on the line here. It's a cheeky little ward over the wall. Will be spotted out, I believe, as this Baron's going down extraordinarily quickly. Remember, Goomer is mega fed.
That's gone.
As, yep, the Baron is going to be taken. Can they win the fight, though, is the question, as I like the Ram being thrown backwards, but the door is still going to mitigate so much of it. Kingin, a little bit too far forward as T1 setting up the Phalanx right in front of Gumayushi. In goes Faker, deciding to pull the trigger as Super Mega Death Rocket is massive, but no one's dead just yet as Kana dives in, immediate double kill as Jinx going to get the follow-up. Guma goes golden. Jet is just trying to do something, but it's not going to work. The spear from Ona is fantastic, and right as we say that DRX might have a hope, all of the hope drains away, and T1 will march up the mid lane with Baron in hand.
Completely shattered hopes and dreams go from, hey, they might win the team fight, to an almost clean ace. Only give up the Braum and carrier. He's more than happy. He was getting tired of carrying that door everywhere. His team needing him every single time. Now he can chill on the base while the rest of his team takes down a DRX. It was not the cleanest game, but it did show us what the early game power and macro of T1 really